We ready, Chris? All right, welcome everyone. Planning and Zoning, June 11th, 2019. So I'll call the meeting to order. First item is to approve tonight's agenda. Everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Probably it's June 12th.
June 12th.
12th.
You
Thank
said
you.
the 11th. I'll move to approve the agenda for June 12th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Next item is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Move we approve
I-
as present. Oh,
Can I please make a correction? I know I was not on at this dais, but I did speak in opposition to it. So I would like to be included in the, I probably didn't do it formally by getting up there and addressing my name and offering the address, but I would like to include my name as under the public comment section.
Okay.
If I can add that, please. Cindy Greengold, 7269 C Street. Thank you. And I can move approval.
second approve, I'll second to approve the agenda, or excuse me,
As
the
amended.
minutes as amended.
Thank you. I'll
Oh.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstained because I wasn't here.
Me too.
All right. The next item is to welcome Laura Blackwelder. Laura, do you really go by Laura or Lori?
I go by Lori.
Okay, that's what I thought. Lori, why don't you to give us a quick summary tell us about yourself?
My name is Lori Blackwelder, formerly Laura. I have been coming to these beaches my whole life. My grandparents lived here, and so they've lived in both North Beach and Chesapeake Beach, so I'm very familiar with both beaches. I joined the military after high school, not right after high school. After I ran out of money in college, I joined the military. And so I have lived in several states, Texas, Washington, North Carolina, South Carolina. And I've also lived in Germany for 3 years with my husband, who is also military. And I've lived during that period where I was military in Chesapeake Beach twice, actually 3 times. Once while my husband was deployed, so it was only 9 months. And I have a history of just doing a lot of volunteer work. That's how I ended up with Derek on the Walkable Community Advisory Group. Just, looking for a way to contribute while I was staying home with my 4 children. And I've really enjoyed it. The town has, a lot of great people in it trying to do cool things. So it's been a lot of fun. And now I'm here. And I just started a job at the census on Monday. So lots of new things this week.
I'm concerned about that new job because Laura's done, I can just say as a peer on that committee, the Walkable Community Committee, that Laura has done a ton of work, and I think that's why she was singled out. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We want to have some public comment about the possible reopening of the 18th Street entrance behind Rollins. So I don't know, Chris, is there any background I should offer on this, or people?
Maybe just to, for the folks who may be listening at home, recap what happened at the last meeting, the last planning commission meeting. Although you weren't
I wasn't there. Can you
Yeah.
can you do that?
Well, I wasn't there either. But I have a sense of what happened because I spoke with Jeff Foltz. And maybe some of the members who are here can fill in the blanks. The mayor and council asked the planning commission through myself and Jeff to listen to public comment, reflect on the possibility of an additional access point into the Chesapeake Station shopping center, and if possible, formulate a recommendation or some comments that the mayor and council could consider. And so that was the opening for the public comment that occurred at the last month's meeting. And during the meeting, there was quite a bit of comment, as I remember, and Jeff Foltz advised everyone that to accommodate any additional questions and concerns, he would put it on the agenda for this month. So that's why we're here.
Okay. And just, I guess, recapping then what's in the minutes, the majority of people spoke in opposition. What the minutes reflect.
Right. That's right.
And was there any discussion about a second access point out on 261?
No, I don't think that was a specific proposal at that time. I think the main issue was access through the rear of the shopping center via existing public streets, which would add traffic to neighborhood street and potentially open up circulation patterns that the community was concerned about. But there wasn't I don't think any specific proposal about another access off of 261.
Okay.
Charlie, if I
You guys
could-
want to, yeah, I was going to say, let's
if I
add
could
whatever
just,
you guys can add.
comment on that. There was various discussions about opening 18th Street, making some sort of connection through 17th Street as an alternative. There was some comments made by members of the public about redesigning Mears Boulevard with circles and stop signs. There was also some comments made by the public with respect to a second access directly off of 261. But there was no proposal made by anyone in terms of a presenting of an amended site plan, of any proposed amendment, textual amendment to any ordinance or anything. It was simply a discussion with nothing formally before the Planning Commission. There were those different elements of discussion mentioned.
Larry, you have anything to add?
That's my recollection too. It was mentioned, a second possible access. Shopping plaza parking lot off 261. Proposal made because there hasn't at that time been a specific request to open up. There's discussion about it, but there's no specific proposal to do that. So there's no alternative.
Okay. Cynthia, anything else to add?
The only thing I want to add is that in discussion with some of my neighbors, which weren't notified about this, they're the group of C Street above 18th Street. They were saying that the reason why it was closed off to begin with is that there was an accident, at least one way. I don't know. Do you know about that, Chris? Why it was closed off? Apparently there was a fatality there because it was open at one time. Traffic came out, and because of the configuration of that road and the fact there are no sidewalks, I think there was a pedestrian that was killed, and that's why it was closed off. So I guess what my part of the street is concerned about is to reopen it only opens up a whole new can of worms. But that was one thing that wasn't added to this discussion. But everything else was definitely in opposition, except of course for the Rollins parking, the Rollins development itself. But actually, we're just hearing from Rollins. We're not hearing from anybody, or we're hearing from anybody else in the plaza, or is it just Rollins?
Well, I don't know about that. If there are other tenants in the shopping center who have concerns. But we did receive a letter in response to last month's meeting from an agent for Stewart Chesapeake Station Shopping Center Incorporated, the owners of the facility. And have you seen a copy of that?
Actually, I've seen that.
Okay, so that's the extent of correspondence that I'm aware of from anyone else besides Rollins, excuse me.
So if there's no other recap, I guess we'd open it for public comment if any of you folks are interested in, I think the main goal Jeff had was that there was a lot of public comment. There was clearly a lot of interest. So we wanted to give the opportunity for more public comment. So if either of you folks want to, that's why you're here. You want to come forward and offer comments, you're welcome to at this time. Come on up.
Yeah, my name is Paul Doherty with 4000 Arcade Court. I was here at last month's meeting. I will just reiterate comments that I made at last month's meeting. I think it's a good idea to have a second exit to that parking lot, but the way that 18th Street exit is configured now, it's really not tenable. It would have to be a lot of road redesign in order to make that work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Shirley Pelletier. I'm representing Rollins. This whole issue, you made a comment about a fatality. When this originally started, from what we understood, it was the people that lived on 17th Street or 18th Street, right there behind the store. 18th, thank you. That people were speeding through there and they didn't like it. So they asked for it to be closed. We offered to put speed bumps up. We talked to the landlord. Everybody disagreed with that. So this is where we're at. I never knew anything about a fatality. For us, it's not a matter of, I'm not sure how, I can tell you that everybody in the shopping center feels the same way that I do, that there's 30 to 40 cars in our parking lot every day that come from Rod and Reel that park over there because there's no room right now for anybody to park. It's hurting our business. The access into and out of the building is bad because we had an accident there a couple months ago where you could not get in or out of the shopping center. The ambulances could not get in and out of the shopping center because a individual was hit by a car right there by the bank and in between the bank and CVS. And so having one entrance and exit to a shopping center, to me, is unheard of. It's not about what it's doing for us. It hurts our business, yes, because the shopping center needs to be a little better organized for the parking lot. But we're looking for safety reasons more than anything. So that's all I have.
So, can I just ask you a quick
Yes, ma'am.
question? So in this letter, it says that the owner of the shopping center is perhaps willing to abandon the 18th Street idea. But it looks like he's asking us to explore other ideas. Did he or she communicate any of those
Well,
ideas to you, or?
Years ago, when this all happened, they had talked to the town and offered to have a egress or access from 261. The beach wasn't ready for it yet.
You know if they were offering to pay for it?
I'm not sure about that. That wasn't,
Okay.
all I know is that they had spoken to the town, and now, with the state being, because it's partly the state road and partly
Right.
the landlord's road, that land, that, they're willing to do and talk to the town and the state to try to do whatever they can to make it better. Also, I don't think they were expecting the amount of people that we have in this community growing and growing and growing. So the shopping center parking lot isn't the best. We've hated it from day one, but who are we to say? It's just more about safety than anything. We're just asking for the back to be opened up for a temporary entrance or exit so that if there is a fire, if there's an accident, or Mears Road is so crowded that we have other opportunities to let our employees and our customers out. This is just about the community. It's not about Rollins. It's not about, it's just about safety. And that's the main concern. It's been our concern since they blocked it. There was a fire there. The fire department has to come. If there's fire at the townhouses, the fire department has to come through the back of the building to get to the fire extinguisher, to get to the townhouses, to put the fire out.
There's not a fire extinguisher on that side?
Not
You mean hydrant.
fire hydrant.
Yeah,
What
fire
did I
hydrant.
say?
Extinguisher.
Oh,
Or-
okay.
They have to run into Rollins and buy them.
Yeah,
My bad.
I figured.
So that, yes, we had a fire at one point at the townhouses and they had to come use the fire hydrant behind the store. So they have 2 blockades up behind the store along with 2 big boulders so that you can't get around it. or 3 blockades. This was 8-10 years ago that this has happened, so I'm not thinking anybody still has a key.
It's
It was
it's my
2008
understanding
proposed.
that access on the back side is removable or movable so that in an emergency,
With a key,
vehicles can get out.
with a key. Who has the key?
Oh.
That's
That's
my
the issue.
fear.
Well, that is probably an easy fix. If there's truly a safety concern, it's just fixing the key issue.
But it's not just about
But I know,
that.
I know,
It's
so-
if our building is burning down, or if there's a,
Sure.
how are we getting out?
Right.
We had our generator caught on fire when we had, what was it, Isabel? And
Yeah. You all really want a second access.
yes,
Right.
I mean, for safety concern, I mean, I have never heard of a place that any shopping center, any mall, Lido's has 2 entrances and exits in their building. So does Mama Lucia's. I mean, why doesn't the shopping center? That's my concern, is for safety.
I think at the last meeting you mentioned July 4th holidays like that, it gets so backed up,
Yeah,
the entrance, that it's difficult to get in and out.
it'll take, if you're in that shopping center, it'll take you anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes to get out. And if something happens, car sets on fire or somebody blows something up, what do we do? Jump the curb? It's not,
Yeah. So I think the question would be, if we were to explore this further, what would the next step be and on what timeline?
Mr.
Because we
Chairman,
don't have anything specific to look at.
we have no specific request before us, either in terms of site plan. We have no textual amendment before us. We have nothing to act upon.
Right.
I think if we were to take a position, it would be inappropriate on that.
Right.
So I think we are an open forum. We've heard everything. I personally think that the safety is a major issue there. I can't conceive of this body with today's zoning, approving a site plan that fronts on a state road and 2 town roads, having only 1 entrance to that. I don't think we would have approved it today on that, simply because of a safety reason. But we have nothing before us to act on, so we're essentially stymied at this point to doing anything, is my opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I mean, if there is a safety problem, which I think there is, and nobody puts forward a plan to correct it, it seems to me incumbent upon this body to at least look at it. Maybe not at this point, we're still hearing from the public, but at some point, safety problem needs to be addressed.
But that's not our prerogative or our position to bring it forward. Somebody has to present that to us.
but as a business owner and a customer myself, all I can do is ask that the entrance be opened and a speed bump put up. I mean, I'll pay for it out of my own pocket if that's what it'll take, just for the safety factor of now. I mean, you're talking a 700 car parking garage coming in.
So, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have the authority to do, as Bob says, we don't have the authority to act on something that's not before us, but town council could. I mean, town council voted to close the road in 2008. It really would be, I'm not trying to kick the can down the road, Shirley, by any stretch, but they're the only ones that would have the authority to vote to reopen the road. Am I correct about that or no?
You're correct. But they've asked this board to weigh in on the question. But I think it's informative to point out that the owner of the shopping center is saying they've abandoned that as an option. I mean, that they're not interested in providing the access through 18th Street. They don't reference emergency or not, so maybe they'd be okay with, as an emergency exit. But they have said they'd like to explore other opportunities. So my thinking was, that's fine. Come to the planning commission with some proposals. You have an improved site plan. You could propose amendments to the site plan that would involve different access points. And then we have, as a planning commission, something to really look at, which is your jurisdiction to review those things. So that's certainly something that, and in terms of the specific question about emergency access, if the council is looking for a recommendation, certainly the planning commission can offer a recommendation, as Larry says, about that. Is an emergency access reasonable thing to have at the shopping center? If it could be properly managed in light of the traffic concerns of the residents? Maybe that's something that the planning commission can opine on.
I mean, by no means are we out to piss the people off on C Street or 18th Street. That's not what,
No, we see
I mean,
the dilemma, and
it's a fear factor.
we certainly
I
see the
mean, It's
dilemma.
been a very long time, and the bigger the place gets and the more people that live here and everything else that's going on, it's just like, now you're really thinking.
So let me ask the council, the other members this: do we feel strongly enough, based on the feedback we're hearing from Shirley and that we're thinking about ourselves, that we would make a recommendation to open 18th Street, or to at least identify, I mean, I would assume Public Works has the keys, but that we would identify a plan that allows that to be opened in case of emergency? Is that something we would consider doing right now? Or is it something we should talk more about?
In my opinion, that's something that is not before us, that we should not.
Right.
I raised last meeting to the members of the town council that were here, saying, you've asked us to hear it, we've heard it, but we can't do anything because we have, if somebody wants to propose a amended site plan, that's one thing. They want to come in with some sort of something that we have that's within our prerogative to vote on, we can vote on it, but we have nothing here within our jurisdiction to vote on.
Right. And from the safety aspect, I would think that we would want to hear from the fire department.
But again, there's nothing
No, well,
before us.
just if there were an alternate plan or
Somebody submitted a plan
anything,
to us.
any kind of temporary anything.
So, okay, so I think if that's the case, I think we should wrap up the discussion unless Shirley has more to say, and move on. But I just want to go back to one thing that Chris said, and maybe I caught my ear wrong, that if we felt that there was a safety concern, we would be in a position to offer an opinion on that. What form would that, did I hear that right? And what form would that opinion take?
Yeah. And I do think one of the tasks or roles of the planning commission, apart from reviewing projects and doing comprehensive plans and zoning, is to make recommendations to the mayor and council or legislative body on matters of development. There's a general category of catch-all for the planning commission's role in the land use article. So there might be room for you to offer an opinion about this. But I think it's more as if we acknowledge a shopping center in this location, given its demand and the traffic and parking requirements, that the concern about having a second entrance or exit is legitimate and it might be worth considering. But obviously issues have to be worked out. Maybe the way that's blocked off now is not adequate. Maybe there needs to be a more sophisticated response to an emergency. The gate comes up or something like that, and maybe it needs some investment by the fire department there. Maybe just having a key is a little old-fashioned for the threats that might come. But yeah, so I think the form it can take is just like that. We acknowledge that we've heard a lot, and despite of all the controversy, we do acknowledge that there's an issue here that needs to be addressed.
Chris, can I ask, does the current site plan for the shopping center show an access onto 18th Street, the existing
Yes.
site plan?
Remember, it did have an access.
And that site plan has not changed.
It's not been revised. Right.
So by the fact that the town has closed the street, that did not amend the site plan. That simply closed the street. And the individual property rights of the owners of that shopping center are still in existence pursuant to that site plan.
Yes. You're right.
So they, despite the fact that by closing the street, that simply takes it out of the town's street inventory. But that does not extinguish the rights of people to use it. Because that's an
Well-
individual easement right granted to those property owners.
They can use it up to the property line.
That's
you
right.
know? No, the Klein versus Dove says that once the plat is on record, all of the property owners have that implied easement to use the street. By the town closing that street, simply takes it out of the town inventory, but it does not and cannot extinguish individual property rights.
Well, it's interesting that while the town abandoned the 18th Street right away,
Right.
100 feet from the state highway right away, it allocated ownership to one half this way, and
Right.
the shopping center owns both halves. The
Right.
shopping center owns that
Right.
entryway. It's on paper alone, but that's hard surface there. So there was never a site plan amended. The site plan that was approved 20 years ago, 25 years ago, is 30 years is presumably still in
So the site
Intact.
plan in existence shows a viable access on 18th Street.
yes, that was the plan.
So are you saying that if the landlord wanted to take it down, he could?
I'm not going to give you legal advice.
I mean, and according to what I was told also, the plans for that closing isn't properly set up anyway, because it was supposed to be down on the other end of 18th Street and not at the end of the parking lot. Mhm. So it's not actually.
Oh, it should have been closed further removed, like to the east.
To up to C Street, you're saying?
That's what apparently the plan said. That's what I was informed. So it's
But
not.
there's people who live on 18th Street who have driveways that come off there. So
That's
that,
what I was saying, but that's what they said. The plan said that it was supposed to be closed off at 18th Street. Maybe that's why it got moved to where it is. I'm not sure. I've never seen them. I don't know. And
no, I mean, this is a really good discussion. I think in the interest of keeping us on schedule, I mean, what I'm kind of understanding here is we have a lot of questions. We don't have a lot of answers. I think the one thing that I would support from what I've heard is a recognition. And if that's done by a motion that ends up in the minutes, or again, I'd look to you for guidance on that. I suspect we would have consensus here to express a concern about the state of the closure and the safety risks involved. We could mention the site plan, but I think that's almost implied. And that we think that that's something that council should look at. Beyond that, we're guessing. And I think that's not a productive use of time. And that's what I would recommend.
I'm not sure that it's for the council to look at. It's for the property owner to come in and present an amended site plan to us,
Right.
Okay.
And which may include other options too, like they're
coming
talking
off
about
of
other options.
261.
But it's not
Mhm.
this body's job to solve that problem.
Yeah.
You know, we're
we're to get him to write that letter.
oh, well, there you go. So progress has been made. But now get in front of the planning commission with a proposal, and then they could do their work.
Do we have subpoena authority, Chris?
Ask Bob.
Executive privilege.
Yeah. Apparently Congress no longer has it, but we might. So is that something that we would then recommend, Bob? Would we say to
I think
the
it's-
owner, we'd
I
like
think
to?
it's appropriate to have a sense of the planning commission that we as a body have concerns about the safety, vehicular safety at the shopping center. We don't have an opinion as to how to resolve that because nothing has been presented to us, but that is a concern of ours.
I think that's also appropriate.
And
Yeah.
the second part is that the onus is on the property owner to present options that may
Right.
affect the approved site plan.
Right.
that we could take up.
So is that clearly worded, Fran? Or
I'll make that motion.
you,
Make that a motion that it's the sense of the planning commission that there is a potential safety hazard at the shopping center with only one point of ingress and egress into and out of the shopping center. And that if the property owner wishes to pursue it, they need to make an appropriate presentation to the planning commission that's within our jurisdiction to vote on.
we have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, both you guys for coming in. And, we can't know a lot of that without your input. So we really appreciate that. I'm just filling a few seconds to get Fran a chance to catch up. She's writing pretty furiously. So the next item on the agenda is comprehensive plan discussion.
Yes.
So I'm going to yield that to you also.
And Jeff and I discussed this afternoon, and we'd like to propose that the Planning Commission hold 2 work sessions in July. One during your normal Planning Commission meeting, and then the other 2 weeks later, so that would be July 24th. And he would like to get the sense of your schedules about your availability for that, so that we can review and move forward with the draft plan. So if you could.
What were those dates? Chris?
It would be July, is it the 10th or the
12th.
And then the 24th.
The 12th and the 20th.
The 10th, July 10th?
12th, the Wednesday, the normal
I
second
apologize.
Wednesday.
I'm struggling with dates. I was looking at the wrong month. It is the 10th.
The 10th, and then
And the
following
24th.
17th?
The next week.
24th.
The
Yeah,
24th,
Oh, the,
Or 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, 2 weeks later.
I can do the 10th, but I will be out of town on the 24th.
Anybody else have a conflict?
For what it's worth,
Time.
I'm available on the 17th or the 31st as well. So if that's more preferable.
Yeah.
Larry, do you have a preference?
I can make any date.
That's the spirit.
Include Bob, why don't we change it to maybe this
31st, I can do it.
31st or something?
Sure.
Chris, do you have a preference for gap between work session and work time to work on what
Uh,
comes out of the work session?
My preference would be at least 10 days, but the important thing is that we meet twice. And so
So-
it's the most important.
So if we do the 10th and the 31st, if we do the 10th and the 17th, it seems like that's maybe too short.
Right.
So let's do the 10th and the 31st.
And let's
We
keep
need
that
to
as
move
tentative
on
until
that,
Jeff
Chris, or-
weighs in on that. You don't have to move that. I also wanted to mention that I've not followed through with a number of things over the past 6 weeks or so, but we do have the first 3 chapters done on account of our. Were you here at the last meeting, Cindy? Okay, and we spent a lot of time talking about the land use plan, so we've got that wrapped up. I still need to put the finishing touches on the projection of population growth. We have the environment. I have the environmental section written. There's really no changes to that, except that it links to the sea level rise work that we've done. So sea level rise integrates into the environment section and the land use section. And the community facilities chapter, which is another element that's required, is fairly straightforward, and most of it's written already. We have some water and sewer, different ways of calculating the available capacity that we're still working out at the staff level. So we're at a pretty crucial point of reviewing and editing and getting your feedback on some things. So I have just asked for more of an intensive month, in part because it forces me to be here on those meetings and forces you to respond in person so we can wrap this up.
So
Recently, the county, I saw last week or the week before, the county did something on the flood plain issue that was in the local paper. If they produced a report that they specifically mentioned the beaches, the paper reported that beaches were specifically mentioned in that. Could we get a copy of that document in our Dropbox?
I'll search for it. Is it the flood resiliency
The-
plan?
It could be that. Yeah, it
think
was an
that's what it
update by
is.
planning and zoning.
Okay. So-
Office of Growth Management, I guess it is now.
The county did that study for itself, and under its contract, it did one for both of the beaches as well.
But there was an update, I think, that was just reported in the paper either last week or the week before.
Okay. An update to the plan they just did about a year ago.
Correct. That's my understanding from the newspaper.
Okay. I'll track it down.
and then we need to get Lori access to that Dropbox account. And I'm looking at Dropbox now, and I was actually confused by this, but we've read a bunch of different sections. I guess what we've read are each of these PDFs represent these distinct chapters as opposed to being one assembled document right now.
I think one document has the first 3 chapters in it.
Yes.
And then there's the other documents are PowerPoint presentations that are mostly visual, maps and graphics, charts.
They're the one, that's what you've been presenting.
That's, yes, that particularly at the March meeting where we spent quite a few hours on that.
We have the 3 chapters in one document in the Dropbox for
Can you
review.
confirm that? I believe that's
That's right. I think I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many chapters total do you expect?
7.
7.
And one of those chapters would be implementation chapter, how we get this done over the years.
Is there any way you can prepare like a cheat sheet highlighting like what is different or what is like the most impactful things that have been decided on and included so that
Yeah,
I
I'll
can
just do it
catch
for the
up to the rest of
The
the,
whole planning commission. I'll send some additional information to you, and it may also be on the Dropbox. One of the documents is a review of all the recommendations of the previous plan, the currently adopted plan,
Mhm.
and comments on its implementation and whether it's relevant moving forward, whether we accept that moving forward or find it's no longer viable. And that's a pretty important document. It's 4 or 5 pages of a table.
and that'll kind of guide.
I think it'll
me
pretty good
through it.
clearly because it'll educate you on what the current plan says and what our thinking is on those plans.
I would just add that what Chris is doing is far and away more, this is a word that I'm going to use, I hope it's meaningful, but it's much more elegant than the previous plan. So it's something that's designed to be consumed digitally. It's got a lot more graphics. It's just a more elegant plan. And I think you're going to find it readable. It's not, you can get through the legal jargon.
Okay, because I tried to
meaningful
look at the
content.
old one and I
Yeah,
was
the old
just
one's-
like, I
the
just
old
need
one's tough.
somebody to hold my hand for this.
I think that's, I figured that's kind of what you're getting at. I think when
Yeah.
you start reading the new one, you'll find it more digestible. You
Well,
guys
that-
agree with that, or
yeah.
you?
Taking business away from lawyers.
Yeah. It is, we did condense it and just deal with the most specific and important things and incorporate a lot of space on the pages and fewer words and more graphics.
Or more pictures, which for those of us who aren't lawyers is helpful. Is there anything else then to talk about on the comprehensive plan tonight?
Not for me.
I'll review it first.
All right, the next item on the agenda is any additional public comment, which I'm going to vote, assume that the answer is no. Which leads us to adjournment. And just a quick reminder that I guess our next meeting will be July 10th.
Got this letter from
I don't know because it's specifically supposed to go to Jeff, and I thought it was.
No, everybody got one, and I got one on my email.
Did I give you one?
We got
Maybe you didn't get one either.
email.
I didn't get one.
I didn't see one on my email.
No, they were
Charlie?
mailed physically to each one of you and sent to the town,
I do not have one.
and I gave Chris got one, I think. You got one.
Yeah, and we got an electronic version and now a hard copy.
Yeah.
What did they just mail? They mailed these to each
They
individual.
addressed it to each of you.
Well, I guess if I didn't get one, and I guess they're.
I think it's a marketing piece.
Yeah.
But on
I would-
not to suggest that somehow invalidates it. The idea of public-private partnerships, pretty cool thing to get things done. And when we look at this town center concept that's emerging through this planning process, it probably gets done with public-private participation, at least, if not a clear partnership because of the overlap between county property, town property, and the private property owners here. So that this is way premature, but certainly those people with the expertise and consolidating different parties together and developing agreements will be a useful resource for the town.
We wouldn't really be able to engage anyone, certainly not pay anyone without permission anyway, right?
No.
Without funding and so on. So would the appropriate response be a polite letter back to these folks that said, thanks, we keep your letter on file, or?
That's polite, yes.
Or just put it in the old Rolodex system, and if we need it, it's there.
There are a number of firms that do this, and a lot of expertise out there in this field.
Kind of like the RFPs, we have to put it out there for
Yeah.
a lot of people to give us ideas
I mean, if
when or if the time came.
so if we ended up wanting to do something like this, or if the town did, we would work with Holly probably and go through an RFP process and so on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, my suggestion then would be that we would just ignore it, and unless there's something that struck any of, I didn't get a letter, so I can't say, but maybe you privileged folks that got one, saw something that struck you that thought we should do more with it than that.
I just did some research on them to make sure I felt comfortable. I think the best idea is to just file this.
Lori, any?
I do have one more question, just because I haven't been here. And I didn't see any comprehensive plan decisions like made from this body. So I guess my question is, what is our surety when we're doing the comprehensive plan? When you say wrap it up on the 31st of July, what does that actually mean?
Provide the input that we need to draft the final document, not the final document that's final and buttoned up, document that we take to the public. That this has the review of the planning commission. Then we go to a public meeting. So we begin the public meeting process right after that.
Okay, and how many public meetings will there be?
I'm not sure yet. We haven't talked about it.
Okay, and then, so, the walkable community, you were at that meeting today.
Yeah.
How does that fit in? Because that's part of the comprehensive plan as well.
Well, the product that the committee produced is going to be in the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
Okay, so, and it'll likely be in an appendix as a work effort. But the mapping on the transportation side shows the main links. You got about 10 projects that are really kind of fill out the concept. But more to the point, today we met with 4 different design firms in an interview process. And your committee, along with Holly, and will make a recommendation to the mayor and council soon on what firm they'd like to select. And the product coming out of that will be essentially a master plan for streets, or for sidewalks and bike paths in the town. And I would hope that that would be presented to you for your review and adoption as an amendment to the comprehensive plan. So it's given the blessing it needs within the framework of development and planning. And when it has your approval like that, it makes it more eligible. The projects are more eligible then to be funded by the various grants, because one of the checks that you have to check off is, does it represent public support? Has it been part of your comprehensive development plan? When you can check those boxes off, they're more likely to be funded. So the firm that's selected, I intend to reach out to right away, as soon as that, to share information I have, but also talk with them about the bigger picture of the town center concept, the concept of development along 260 coming into town, and the need for mixed development 261 and 260. Just the planning ideas, so that they're well informed when they go to do the master plan. Because their plan will be much more like project based. This is the intersection of 260 and 261. We want it to be more pedestrian friendly and safer. These are the concepts. These are obstacles to achieving that. These are the people we need to weigh in to fix it. This is the cost it's going to be. And this is the implementation timeline. And I'll have that for a number of projects, probably all 10 of them in the town. And some of the projects that are really high priority would be there'd be a deeper dive into more of an engineering look. So it becomes more grant ready. So very positive development.
Meeting check. Yay.
Yeah, very, very much.
Chris,
so.
So Chris, what I've heard you saying is that today several firms were interviewed to write this appendix that would go in the comprehensive plan, and that the instructions for what concepts they'll be using have not yet been articulated specifically, but they will be given when the contract is let to one of these firms?
No, not precisely. The sidewalk committee produced at the last meeting, I think it was in April, they made a presentation to you.
Right.
That
Great
document-
presentation.
Yeah, so that document would be part of the appendix, the part of supporting materials for the comprehensive plan.
So that presentation is the appendix that
Yes,
would be added to
those
the
documents, yes,
comprehensive
right.
plan. Okay.
The master plan that the design firms would prepare would refine in detail that, and would eventually be adopted by the planning commission to amend your comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan will be adopted and approved by then. So this new document's a little more detailed, and it will amend and refine the comprehensive plan.
That kind of gets my second question, was how long is that going to take? It wouldn't be by July 31st.
No, it's going to be but maybe next year. by
Yeah.
July.
6 months. is
Yeah.
What the RFP was written for,
And that's kind of what you said. It would come back as an appendix or as an add. It's
as an amendment.
As an amendment
Yeah.
to the plan. And really, it wouldn't mean that we would open up the current plan and change it anyway. It would just be adopted. So that we have both of them together. And over time, there may be other documents that you would, maybe we do a more of a detailed town center master plan at some point, bring in somebody who could do that. And that would refine in detail your comprehensive plan and represent an amendment. So it's a small area plan that amends your comprehensive plan.
Chris, I'm somewhat confused at this point then, and just in terms of the logical progress of how this goes. What you're talking about with these design firms are project-specific designs.
Right.
Which should be based upon an existing comprehensive plan, which is not in existence as yet.
Right.
So how can you have somebody approving a master plan for specific projects when we have not approved a comprehensive plan that would then authorize saying this is where we want to go?
Right. Well, things don't always line up in timing.
Right, because if the hypothetical situation, okay, you go through this, these guys come in and we spend $10,000, whatever it's going to be, and they come up with these master plans and projects. And we as a body saying, oh, that's great. We're not going to have that in our comprehensive plan. What happens then?
Well, the other thing is the city council, a town council has to approve the comprehensive plan. Suppose they reject the whole thing.
Right.
And come up in a completely different direction.
Right.
And we've got this group.
Aren't we putting the cart before the horse on that?
You might say that, but then again, if you look at it a different way, you can simply say this is a part of the infrastructure that the town wants to repair and fix, and it's not introducing anything that they haven't presented to you already and got.
Well, if it's under the
feedback.
existing comprehensive plan, then you have these plans existing under the currently existing comprehensive plan, which may or may not be the comprehensive plan that we adopt.
I'd offer maybe another caveat to that, Bob. And I'm talking now not as a P&Z member, but as a Walpole community member. The mayor, what's the right word? Authorized these committees, empowered, and town council empowered these committees to come up with these plans and suggestions. So to me, the Walpole community can act independently of the comprehensive plan. If there's overlap, then it can become an addendum to the plan. That's great. If there's not overlap, it doesn't invalidate what the Walpole committee has done under the guise of their mandate from town council.
As long as the walkable committee is working under the existing comprehensive plan, then they have the appropriate authority to do what they're doing. What I'm suggesting is that because we have not recommended to the town council the new comprehensive plan, which may or may not include those suggestions, and the town has not approved that, the new comprehensive plan may not have any of this stuff in it.
I think that's true.
My thought was, as I understand it, the last time the Planning and Zoning Commission proposed a comprehensive plan to the town council rejected it.
Yep.
And changed it dramatically. And so there's a lot of change here.
Can I make one, I have one question, actually. Do we not have to have a hearing about any, the walkable communities program or project that they propose? We have to have a hearing about that before it goes into an RFP and,
Oh, you'd have to have a, what do you mean before
well, in
it
other
goes to
words,
the
we haven't
RFP?
had a hearing for the community to come in and discuss it
Oh, the
and add to it
the
whatnot.
project.
Right, the project, exactly.
Yeah, so the Walkable Communities Group doesn't have to hold a hearing, but in order to make their product, the product that they've reached out to a consultant to do, make it official, you have to have a hearing. You will hold a hearing. And you may say to the Walkable Communities Group, get your consultant back to work because we don't like that concept. It doesn't square with our comprehensive plan. Quite conceivable. And they'd have to go back to work to tweak it. But I have a sense that there's and I think Derek shares this and the committee, because there's been a lot of overlap between and they've come and made presentations to you, and you seem to have a pretty good feel for what they're recommending in that in the handout, and that there's some overlap. There's adjacent, I think, a basic understanding what they're doing, and it's going to be part of the draft plan. And if you don't like it, you can take it out, and they will then go back and revise their contract with or their work scope with the contractor they have hired. So, I mean,
The contract isn't for construction, it's for planning.
Right.
And it's within the Walkable Community Advisory Group's budget to plan, so it shouldn't infringe.
Right. I'm just
Yeah.
putting it out there that everything that is being done now is under the currently existing comprehensive plan. That what we are working on is a new comprehensive plan, which may or may not include any of these elements in it.
So
Right.
I think realistically, it may be that the work product of the walkable community or any of the committees that were formed may or may not make it into the comprehensive plan.
Correct.
May not make it into the comprehensive plan that leaves this body, may
Right.
be amended later by the town council,
Yep.
but it doesn't invalidate their work. They're moving forward under their mandate, and
Right.
I think we all hope. I don't think it's inappropriate to say we hope that there's a fair amount of overlap between their work, and we'll determine that when we see their work. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I just want to raise that as a timeline issue, that we are working two different timelines. We're working our new comprehensive plan timeline, and all this other stuff is going on out there under a different timeline, which may be wasted money or not, depending upon what we do with our new comprehensive plan.
I think that's reasonable. Any other questions, Lori?
Are there any other large plans in the new comprehensive plan that I might not be aware of? Like anything big with utilities, anything big with densities?
I'll get the PowerPoint presentation to you that we reviewed in March. I don't think there's anything big, but at least it'll inform you of
Of what's
where we were at that time and what we reviewed and discussed. You'll have a good feeling about that. The utilities are what they are. There's no proposal to expand the wastewater treatment plant. It is what it is. It's there. It's built. So
right.
I don't know that Yeah, we talked about the zoned development capacity, which is what is possible now under the current zoning ordinance on every parcel within the town. And we projected what the number of households that would be resulting if they developed under the current zoning ordinance with reasonable plans, you know? We also added up all the dwelling units that are associated with currently approved projects that are on the books now that are in some stage of development. And then we looked at what a reasonable projection of growth would be, but the low projection and the high projection. And we're settling in on something slow and restricted, generally in coordination with the survey input that we got. So it would be closer to the lower growth rate than the higher growth rate. And then we talked about the various land use recommendations. We talked about land conservation, where lands are steeply sloped and undevelopable. It would be better to recognize them as such. And perhaps they become opportunities for trails and other connections, connecting open spaces together. But where land is developable and the impacts of development could be minimized, that might be the place where increased density is allowed. Because we know that regeneration of property doesn't come about when zoning is so restrictive that you can't make a return on an investment. So that's why you often have blight established in the community, because the regulations restrain the private sector from delivering the vitality that the community wants. So we're trying to work that right balance.
Right.
Does that capture? That's kind of what, to
It's a good-
paraphrase what we
Yeah,
talked about.
It's a good summary, and
Right.
I'd suggest that, no offense, but I mean, for more detail, get in and read it, and then when we have our work session, you will be, you'll be right on board, and I think that's good.
Okay.
We learned some surprising things too, that traffic volumes have not increased for 20 years in this town. For 20 years, traffic has the data shows it.
Except Roland's parking
Where
lot.
did the data, right, where,
Except for Roland's parking lot. But I'm talking about 261 and 260, the main roads, and actually, as it turns out, the regional roads around the town too. Traffic grew quickly and just leveled off. And the parts related to the growth management strategies of Southern Anne Arundel County, the Southern County, South County, no growth, and then Calvert County directing most development to the town centers in the southern part.
Right.
And while the town has grew steeply, the traffic volumes have not so much, which is kind of an interesting development, which speaks to, I think, the benefit of creating more of a walkable community, accommodating the tourist function that's here now, making it so that you park your car once and you can walk around as a tourist and visitor rather than driving all around. So it's really kind of neat synergies happening in the town.
yeah, I'm excited to
The
look
schools
at it.
be-
I've
I
been
think-
dying to see this
And
thing
I just
for a
feel
long
like,
time.
not to be repetitive, but I feel like it's so much more accessible when you read it. You'll get a lot out of it. It's so much
Okay.
more accessible than
I will trust you on that, and then, yeah.
except to Bob, but
Yeah.
everyone else.
Don't trust lawyers.
Bob, do you have any comments, questions before we wrap up?
No further comments or questions.
Larry? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
One, Lori.
I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out.
So you're gonna give me access so I can see all the cool plans?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.